It's a good thing and humbling and right and exciting to be in this moment, to be here today. We started this journey of exploring merging, a year ago? A little over a year ago. And right as we started this journey together, Rachel and I, not that Rachel, my Rachel, we've got to figure this out, how we don't have to say that every time I mention my wife, Rachel, and I took what was a bucket list trip to Victoria, which I bet most of you have done, but for us it was the first time there. And as we all know, it's a lovely place, and we just enjoyed the history there, the cute little water taxis that are just like these tiny little, just adorable. We did the formal tea like you have to do when you go there, and just watching the seaplanes land and take off was just amazing. And we did a tour of, and somebody's going to correct my pronunciation, is it Bouchard? Oh, I did it right. For the first time, I don't have to be corrected. We did Bouchard Gardens, and we didn't have a car with us. We took the ferry over, and so we got one of the tour buses that, takes you out there. And we had a great driver who was also, our tour guide. And as we were sitting in traffic and inching our way out there, he would point out various pieces of history. And at one point, he goes, "Look at that wall over there." And it was just the wall that was part of a building that had a tavern in it and a few other shops. And he was like, "Isn't that wall amazing?" And we're all like, "If you say so." And he said, "Well, tell me what you see." And then somebody just said, "Well, the stones are a different color about halfway up." And he said, "That's right." He's like, "That wall is very special to Victoria because it was one of the first really permanent structures built. And those different color stones come from different quarries." And we're all like, okay, that's maybe a little interesting, maybe not worth stopping the tour bus and pointing it out. And he said, "But those quarries are not from around here. The quarries are from elsewhere, a long way away, perhaps even on the East Coast or England or France, because those were ballast stones. And most of you know this is kind of a maritime area, so we know about ships and shipping and all of that. And one of the things that keeps boats from being too rocky and rolly and tipping over is that you need weight at the bottom. You need ballast. Modern vessels have big keels and all of that, but the old wooden ones, they would load up the interior with ballast stones. And they did that especially if they didn't have a full load of heavy things that they were sailing with. And so when these ships would come into Victoria, they would have, all these ballast stones that they would unload when they would have timber and the various things loaded on. And these stones were just piled up there by the harbor. And a lot of people probably just saw these various piles of stones and just was like, look at that. It's a pile of stones. But there was somebody there at that time who had vision. And they built something. They took those stones and they began piecing them together and mortaring them in. And they built a building. And that feels like us here today. From the outside, people might not see a whole lot. They might look and see two small congregations. And yes, both congregations are a little bit older. That's okay. And there's a lot of voices, and there will be a lot of judgment about that. Two smaller congregations, a little older. And you can almost hear folks say, "That's it? That's all you have? Good luck with that." We're kind of like that pile of stones right there. We can either look at it and just go, there's not much there and it's not worth much. Or we can see that as the building blocks for something bigger and something greater. And so when the voices start piping up and saying like, "That's it? That's all you got? You got two small congregations? Good luck with that." I say, and I think we all need to say, we don't need luck. We don't need luck because we have hope and we have Jesus. And if you have hope and you have Jesus, what else do you really need? What else could we possibly need? So we go to our text today, and it's out in the country. We can all take a mental vacation out in the country, and it's getting late. And Jesus has been teaching, and there's people around, and the disciples are just done. They're tired. They're worn out. They're tired of looking after Jesus. They're tired of traveling, and the sun is starting to go down, and they want to be done for the day. They want to kick off their sandals. They want to let their hair down. They just want to be done. They don't want to take upon the responsibility and the task of looking after the people, of providing for the people who have gathered there. And so they say, like, okay, let's just send these people away. Let's chase them off. And Jesus says, don't send them away. Feed them. Don't send them away. Feed them. And what do the disciples say in reply? Yeah, it's late. And then they say these three words. All we have. All we have is a few fish and a few loaves of bread. All we have. The voices of despair, the voices of doubt, the voices of scarcity have wormed their way into the disciples' heads, even though they've been with Jesus all this time. They've seen what Jesus can do with very little. They've seen what Jesus can do, and they still say, all we have. All we have is this little bit. And I find it interesting that Jesus and the disciples were in the exact same spot, in the exact same moment, looking at the same thing, and have two totally different responses, two totally different perspectives on what that moment and that place contains. Right? They're not looking at different things. They're in that spot together in the exact same moment, seeing the exact same thing. The disciples looked around and saw the sun going down, and it was getting late, and they felt worn out, and all they could see was scarcity. And all they could see was problems. All they could see was why it wouldn't work if they tried to feed people, and why something couldn't happen. But Jesus looked at the exact same situation and saw it differently. He saw abundance. He saw opportunity. He saw a need and an opportunity and a chance to feed and fill the hunger of the people. And he saw a moment where a scattered group of individuals could break bread together and become a people in that moment. All we have. It strikes me that those three words could be said in two very different ways, right? How we hear the disciples saying it is full of resignation and defeat, like, all we have is this little bit. But we could also say it differently, couldn't we? If we say something like, we're going to give all we have, it's got gratitude. It's got hope. Same three words. Just said differently. I know that it's easy to despair right now. And I'm not just talking about church. Actually, I don't think too many people, and hopefully nobody gathered here today and online, is despairing about the future of these two congregations. There's probably some grief, and we know that, and that's right and proper. But I hope that grief is tempered with some excitement. But the world is hard right now. The world is just hard right now, and I bet most of us can't remember a time where it's been this challenging. And so despair is easy to feel. And it's easy to point out why things won't work. Not just in terms of forming a new congregation, but with lots of things in lots of areas. It's not hard to look out at the political landscape or the environmental landscape and just, despair and feel some overwhelm, to worry. And that's okay. I'm not trying to convince anyone to just dismiss all of those feelings. But I hope there's room for something else. I've laughingly said before that one of the things that United Methodists are best at is being concerned. We do that exceptionally well. When we gather for worship, when we gather in small groups, there is almost always a moment for some good old teeth gnashing. Yep. Isn't there? I mean, it's something we do, and it's part of our heritage as being proponents of the social gospel. We understand that part of our faith journey includes caring for our neighbors. It includes being aware of social justice and environmental problems. And so we do get concerned. We worry and we despair. And if they were giving out master's degrees in concern, you would all have letters after your names. All Methodists would. We're good at it. That's what we do. But today, and I hope going forward, today we are invited to get our doctorate in hope. Right? It's okay to be concerned. It's good to be concerned. It's good to care about the world and our neighbors and the political landscape and the environmental landscape and all of that. It is excellent to care and to worry and be concerned. But we're called to specialize also in hope. And it's hope not just based on our abilities, even though our abilities are profound. I would love to invite everyone up here and just look out at each person here and just take a moment and recognize how extraordinarily capable each person in this group is. We have lawyers and doctors and teachers and musicians and poets and computer programmers and all of that with all of this rich life experience, and not just a few of you, but this big gathering and folks online. Just that is reason to hope, but we've got more. We've got the Spirit of Jesus that exists in us as we open our hearts. We've got God for whom surprises are a delight. We're invited to get our doctorates in hope because it's not completely up to us anymore. We're invited to put on new glasses. Years ago, one of our former bishops in Oregon, was Bishop Hoshibata a bishop of P&W as well, or was that before we came together and shared a bishop? Bishop Bob Hoshibata used to preach a lot, and it was particularly meaningful for those of us who wear glasses, how important it is to put new lenses in our glasses, to learn to see differently, that we're well trained to look out at the world and be concerned and despair and see problems. But Bob used to preach all the time about how we have to put on different lenses and look out at the world with hope and determination, so that when we look out at our reality, we see abundance rather than scarcity. And when we look out at our to-do list, we see the joyous task and we choose to hope. And when we, as a potentially new united congregation, admit that our future definitely still contains some change. If we merge in less than an hour, our work isn't done, is it? It's just beginning. And this change thing of new buildings and new rituals and all of that, well, it's just getting started. And we can either have the glasses that look at that and just go, ugh. Or we can put on the glasses that see all of that as opportunity and choose to be hopeful. We can look around today and say, is this all we have? Or we can look around today and say, all we have is for you, God. And trust that God will do something with all we have. I'll end with this. We had our vital merger team. And for folks who are on the merger team, would you guys just raise your hand so people can look around and see you? For those whose hands aren't raised, can we give them a little thank you clap? I'm not sure folks realize just how much time we spent working together. It was a lot, and it was wonderful, a joyous task. But it was interesting to see the different personalities come out. We had some people who love their spreadsheets. Joyce, in particular. Where's Joyce? There she are. And Sherry. Sherry likes her organization. And others were our artists, and some were our dreamers, and some were the folks who called us back to attend to what we should be attending to. But it was really fun because sometimes people would step out of their roles a little bit. And Sherry, who I think enjoys order and to-do list and things like that. Is that a fair statement? Fred, is that, I'm not asking you, Sherry. Is that a fair statement? Those of you who know Sherry, she likes organization and agendas and things like that. But she, I think, stepped out of her comfort zone and wrote a haiku. You remember that? You're like, oh, I wish I hadn't done that now. No, it was great. It was great. And I won't read you the whole thing. I mean, it was a longer poem. But one of the lines was this: together we join as followers of Jesus in a union of hope. And I'm not sure if we got all the syllable count right there, but we're not going to worry about that. Together we join as followers of Jesus in a union of hope. Together we join as followers of Jesus in a union of hope. This is what is before us today. The chance to be a union of hope. To choose hope. To build and connect and serve and create together. With hope and with each other and with God. So as we prepare for the moment of choosing, let us come to the table and be fed.